Oh! Tried my best being playing FIFA for 1 hour. Tried my best to not go crazy. It's impossible. Are you gonna fix your servers? I swear guys, if they don't fix the servers, I'm gonna break everything in my studio.
Over the past week, War Thunder posted 3 important posts. Some of them were not posted as dev logs or announcements on the website, but rather on the forums. Firstly, there was a dev question and answer about a bunch of mechanics in-game aside from economics. As they said, we have to wait for the roadmap by the 14th, so we can see what they plan to do with the economics issue. Secondly, there was an intention to increase player count in top-tier Grand RB lobbies. And finally, there was a forum post announcing reworks on traction in the dev server. Today, we're going to talk about all these 3 in a very exciting topic that I would like to talk by the end of this video. So, without further ado, let's start with the big developments in War Thunder. The dev team Q&A was posted last week, no doubt as a response to the player backlash about the economical changes and gearing towards transparency for a change. While it covers most topics, it misses some big issues that aren't related to the economy. One of these issues they failed to address is Real Shatter. Real Shatter, to be put simply, was a rework for high explosive fragmentation in low caliber guns to generate a more consistent effect against aircraft. In practice, it appeared to be a nerf to 20mm guns, greatly reducing their effectiveness against aircraft. It's one of the biggest issues affecting aircraft at the moment, and the devs overlooking this in the Q&A is a bit weird. The highlights of the Q&A would be making night battles optional, reworking light vehicles, and giving a delay to Commander Override feature in some tanks. Personally, I like this new change in transparency, and I do hope they keep it up, but as for the content, there's some I disagree with, but I agree with making night battles optional. However, delaying the Commander Override would be detrimental because there's really no real-life limitation to Commander Override. By conjuring up some weird delay, you open yourself to artificially nerfing a lot of vehicles. I maintain that the Hunter Killer Commander Override system stay the way it is. Map bans were also discussed and someone suggested up to 5 map bans. Gaijin's response about having so many map bans that it would destroy matchmaking is actually mathematically possible. War Thunder has an average of 100,000 players nightly, and if they have a total of 500,000 map bans, it's not statistically impossible for all maps to be banned. However, Gaijin seems to want to introduce BR limits to maps, which would take away certain maps from certain BRs, and personally I welcome that change, because maps like Poland and Eastern Europe are great for low BRs, but for vehicles that have automatic distance calibration with the use of laser rangefinders and overly powerful penetrating armor-piercing fin-stabilized discarding Sabo rounds, they're basically death sentences. At the end, they also discuss a bunch of maps and what makes them good or bad. My only gripe is that they disagree with Port Novorossiysk being an awful map, and just ask you to, and I'm not kidding about this one, use smoke shells. Nope, not smoke grenades because it blinds you and your teammates, but smoke shells to blind the campers across the river. Sure, Gaijin, I'll try that in my Leopard A1A1, which does not get smoke shells. How about that? Anyways, if you wish to read more about the Q&A, link is in the description. Now we move on to the increments of players in top-tier Ground RB lobbies. Now, while they haven't given the actual maximum number of players to be added in a match, we could probably assume that it's 16v16 like they did in Air RB top tier. The only other information they provided was that it was for 9.3 matches or higher, so effectively 8.3 to 12.0 vehicles are going to be affected by this change. In my opinion, this is the game mode that would benefit from more players. Air RB has become a mess because gameplay is so fast-paced at top tier, it's not impossible to end up as the last player fighting against like what 6-7 aircraft of the enemy team. In ground RB, more tanks would serve to cover more of the map and have more teammate support, whatever that's worth in War Thunder. The only stringent downside that I can see with increasing player count in ground RB matches would be the close air support spam. With more players, it's very likely that more helicopters and aircraft would spawn at a single given time. However, this will also be met with equal numbers of SPAA spawning, so it's really just, I guess, more of the same. So if you were to ask me, more players will benefit ground RB more than it benefited air RB. And now on to traction changes. Basically, in an effort to curb getting to spots that are a bit unfair, tracked and wheeled vehicles have their sideways traction nerfed, meaning vehicles are most likely to slide down slopes sideways. It's basically the old traction system, but only affecting vehicles going down sideways. In my opinion, traction changes are not the way to go about it. It's just a band-aid solution to avoid fixing maps that need fixing real bad. Seems in their haste to make meaningful changes, they're making faster but less effective changes rather than doing changes that require more work but affect the game positively in a longer span of time. If I were the devs, I'd just go and redo the maps like they're doing with White Rock Fortress, hold off introducing new maps to alleviate the work on the map development team. These traction changes will become more annoying if implemented, and I've made that known in the poll they made for it. As of the moment, from what I know last night, they've been reverted and they are being revised and reworked as of today, so good thing that we won't see them in the coming update. But if any of you wish to participate in the polling for raising the player count in ground RB matches and the traction changes, links to the polls will be in the description below. And finally, the favorite part of these new changes. This one wasn't mentioned on the forums or in the announcement section, but this is one of my favorite changes in the coming update. And it's the addition of the Python 3 missile to the Kfir C2, C7, F4E Kurnass 2000, and the F16A Netz. I love this so much because not only is the Python 3 one of the most iconic air-to-air missiles ever, but it's also breathing life back into the Kfir C7. The Kfir C7 at 11.3 with only AIM-9Gs struggled to compete with aircraft that had AIM-7Fs and AIM-9Ls at the same battle rating. All it had was its speed, but now, with 4 Python 3 missiles, it now actually has a fighting chance. Not because it's got 40 Gs of turn, but simply because the Python 3 is all aspect capable. What surprised me the most is that the Kurnass 2000 is getting Python 3s as well. I assumed only aircraft with no radar missiles would get them because that's the condition the J8F received 6 PL8s, because it couldn't get the PL12s and it didn't really carry PL11s in real life. That was for the J8H. However, as luck would have it, the Kurnass 2000, which already has AIM-9Ls and AIM-7Fs with the pulse Doppler radar, also gets it. That would make the Kurnass 2000 very competitive and interesting to use in Air RB, getting 4 Pythons and 4 AIM-7Fs. It's gonna be a powerhouse. The Python 3s use a new icon in the loadout menu. If AIM-9Bs and R3S missiles use the white tip missiles, AIM-9Gs and R60s use red tip missiles, the R13M and AIM-9Ps use gold tip missiles, the Pythons use green tip missiles to denote their difference from the 9L and the like, meaning the Python 3 is the first of an entirely new set of missiles, which might include stuff like the R-73 for the Soviets, the V-3B Kukri for South Africa, and the AAM-3 for the Japanese. That's about the only new missiles that would be in that category of high off-bore sight missiles with conventional seekers, because the next leap of technology would be stuff like the Python 5, Iris-T, ASRAM, and AIM-9X. Similarly built but better missiles might also be added under the same category, such as the Python 4 and the PL9. Air RB would be really interesting with these new missiles being added onto so many platforms. Some of these missiles, like the PL8 and Python 3, go a long way in the future of tech trees in War Thunder, with aircraft like the J-11 and J-15 and the F-15 and F-16 Barak for Israel using these missiles as one of their primary infrared short-range missiles. Paired with the Israeli Elbit dash system, or the display acquisition and sight helmet-mounted device system, the Python 3 would be a really competitive aircraft when the update drops. And as the dev blog for the new effects in La Royale says, it's almost complete, so we'll see the update drop next week for sure. Get your grinds ready because we're getting the Israeli update. Like, right? Spike MR and Python 3s. 2 Magaks. It's the Israeli update. Of course, I'm just kidding. These new developments in War Thunder need to be examined with more scrutiny in order to maintain good gameplay. Personally, you should take advantage of this War Thunder glasnost to make the game better in whatever way you can, or whatever way we can, and so when the economical perestroika comes, we end up with a better War Thunder than the Soviets ever had with their Russia after Gorbachev. Too political? I'm sorry, I'm just making an analogy. Thank you for watching. This is the Dr. MD. Godspeed.